Montauk, New York.
Oh,
I'm at a buddy's place for the weekend. Got some clients out
nice.
here teaching some classes, doing some stuff out here. So I'm good.
Awesome. Yeah. It is summertime over there. All the heavy hitters in New York head out to Montauk around this time. That's why Kenny's out there. Uh, so finally, we've been trying to get this going for a while. Glad we finally got on and we're live. And here we are. If you guys are not familiar with Kenny, you should be. One of the top New York City trainers, founder of Strong New York, and I'm excited to talk about that. I'm a huge fan of getting people stronger, and you guys are doing that full force in the greatest city in the world, New York City. And we need more strength. So tell us, jump into it, all about Strong New York.
Yeah. So the idea behind it was basically, I was never the strongest guy. I was never the best athlete. But I love the idea of strength, right? I love the idea of like being able to pick up the heaviest possible weight you can. And everybody always comes in, and especially, years ago with all the CrossFit stuff, everybody's like, well, I can't deadlift and I can't do this. It's like, all right, don't tell me what you can't do. Show me what you can do. And you start to really see people change. You start to really see people start believing in themselves. And I think that's what the world's missing right now is more people who just believe in themselves and, stop using the, excuse that like, oh, poor me, I just got dealt a shit hand and now the world owes me something. It's like, no, if you want something, go earn it. You want something, go work for it. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I think strength training is a gateway drug to mental strength and emotional strength. If I can endure what I can in the gym, then things outside the gym become infinitely easier. So that's kind of where the idea came from. Aside from that, I was going to all these seminars and events and traveling around the country, going and listening to different people talk and going to the Arnold and all these different events. And I go, why do I keep having to travel for all this shit? Why isn't there an event in New York? So I decided to kind of throw my own event in New York. A couple of years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, was the first one. And then the last one we did was in 2019, right before the pandemic. And we had over 500 people there. So we did this huge in-person event. Then the pandemic happens, fast forward a little bit. And then we were kind of just left to figure out what we were going to do next. So we started doing a lot of charity stuff, but then I was like, all right, what else could we do? There's got to be something else we could do. So I started doing like the group classes, and I realized that so many people just needed to do something. They needed to be around other people. So that becomes a level of strength, right? Can I endure this, what new reality we have, and not let it break me down? Because the suicide rate over the past year was insane. If you start to look at those numbers, it's just staggering how bad it was. So Strong New York is basically a lifestyle fitness brand that I created and kind of evolved naturally. But we do shirts and stuff like that, but that's just because I like doing that stuff and I enjoy creating. I was an art major in college, so people always find it weird that they're like, well, why do you do this? I'm like, well, I just enjoy it. I mean, it was never meant to be some big money maker. It's just something I like doing. And then fast forward a little bit more, we're about to open up a new space on 28th and 5th Ave in New York in the next month or so, hopefully. And now there's like a home for it. So the idea behind, getting stronger physically so you get stronger mentally and emotionally was basically the whole thought process behind it. And then the event was just a chance to bring the best people in the world to New York City, the best city. So that's it in a nutshell.
I like the camera work. For those listening, he is in. I like the Indian style. I don't know if we're still allowed to say that term, but yeah, the.
I was looking for a freaking charger for this my headphones.
It's all right, brother. It's all right. We can we can skip without the headphones. You're doing good. The audio is good. Speaking of that mental strength as well, on top of the physical strength, we did get a question leading up to this recording from Adam Craig, and he wanted to kind of check in about you. I guess he's never heard the story. And those not familiar, Kenny, back in the day, was a reality TV show star I think that is an appropriate label. Yes.
Sure.
And went through some legal nonsenses, it sounded like.
Yeah.
And again, without going too far into all that, it just sounded like a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
And so Adam's question specifically was, and I didn't want to, have this whole recording without addressing his question of basically how you dealt with it. Was there, did you use some, he's specifically asking, were you able to use some exercise, some of the strength training to handle some of the stress around that, and just give us a quick synopsis or as much as you want about that whole situation and how you kind of hopefully got stronger coming out of that.
Yeah, it definitely was. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Sometimes I've always felt that all you have is your reputation, right? And you do everything you can to make people, whether I'm training or I'm meeting people out, like I'm very protective of like who I am and what I want to do. And, everybody wants to put their best foot forward. And I always have. And, listen, television's television. They're trying to create a storyline. They're trying to create nonsense to get viewership. I mean, we're seeing it like crazy right now in the media. And, it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's all bullshit. So at the time, it's like, yeah, I got Me Too before Me Too was a thing. And, it all came out in the wash. It was all bullshit and everything, but it's still there, right? And you still have to deal with it. And it's the day to day that people don't see, whether it's, meeting somebody's parents for the first time or my own parents having to deal with it. It was a lot. It sucked. It's definitely meant, it's definitely made me mentally stronger for sure. You deal with something like that. You're like, wait, this is my reputation. I didn't do anything. I think it's easier to overcome something if you actually did something, because you're like, all right, I made a mistake. Now I can improve. And when you didn't do something and you have to like soul search as to why this would have happened, the only answer I could come up with is like, all right, this was here just to test me. This is, in my opinion, the only thing worse would be to like be a kid toucher or something. It's like, it's the worst possible thing I could think of, so like I say this all the time, as fucked up as this is, but this is my logic. You could, every one of us has been mad to a point where you're like, man, I could kill somebody. I'd kill somebody. But obviously I've never killed anyone, but you could understand in a fit of rage how someone does something like that. Or stealing something. You're like, man, if I don't have anything, I have to go and get it. So you could understand theft. You could understand potentially harming someone in that way. But to do something out of like malice or, what the situation was, I was just like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. This doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit anybody in any way. There was nothing really to it. It was so stupid. So whatever, I had to deal with that, but overcoming that, yeah, exercise and diving into kind of life a little bit more, kind of strengthening myself. I'm like, all right, I gotta go. I could either, and there were dark points. I thought about taking a bunch of drugs and just fucking forgetting it all happened and kind of moving away and running from it because it was just like hard to deal with. And then I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to keep pushing forward. I'm going to keep doing what I have to do and keep pushing forward. And that's what I did, and it's like you deal with, I've lost out on so many big opportunities that I could have potentially had that, financially I could have been pretty well off, and I lost those. And you could dwell on those and you could think about like what I don't have. It's like, oh, I could have had this and I could have had that. And it's like, well, the time and effort that I spend on thinking of what I could have had, I should just move forward and try to find something else. And that's what I've done, and every time somebody brings up television stuff, I'm like, and it's never that. It's always, oh, I loved you on TV and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, I just don't even bring it up. I don't care. It was never like it never defined who I was.
I hear you, man. Yeah, that's there's a lot there to take away and some really good lessons. I think hopefully, when bad things happen, hopefully we can at least, take some positive out of it. I mean, every time, we see death or funerals and things like that, it's always kind of that wake up call. So yeah, hopefully going through something like that, just really gives you a lot of perspective, and it's shitty to go through, I'm sure, but yeah, hopefully makes
Well,
you.
now it's so common. You see so many people who are dealing with it. I mean, everybody, men, women, who, it doesn't matter who you are, politicians and doctors, and everybody kind of deals with this shit now. It's a relevant thing at the moment. And I say to anybody out there who's dealing with it, it's like you're like, "Well, I didn't even say anything, or I didn't do anything, or this was from 30 years ago."
Mm.
It's one of those hurdles. It's you just keep pushing forward, and you rack up as many wins as you can, and you kind of get mentally as strong as you possibly can, and you don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's if somebody's willing to judge you on one thing, if there was 100 accusations out there about me, I'm like, man, I should really fucking clean up my act.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's one person from fucking 12 years ago, and when you start to look into the story and read the facts, you're like, this is all such bullshit. Anybody with any brains has always reached out to me. Attorneys, different people who've been like, I read this and none of this makes sense. And I'm like, no shit. I was like, it sucks. But it's like, it sucks that you have to deal with it still. I'm like, I know, but what do I do? There's no getting around it.
Right.
So,
well, let's jump ahead, man. Let's jump ahead to the future and strong New York. And we talked about, COVID and how the New York City scene, and I'm looking at your social media, and looks like, New York's kind of back. You're out drinking, smoking cigars,
yeah.
with some social fun and all that good stuff. So on top of strong New York, how do you feel about the New York City fitness scene? I'd love to get your perspective. You're right there. That's how we initially met. And, I miss it a little bit, but I don't miss all the politics and the drama of that either, of the New York City, the fitness scene, if you will. But yeah, how do you feel about how it's come back after COVID?
Well, I wouldn't say it's back yet. I think there's definitely, it was, COVID was actually kind of a blessing in a way, because there were so many people doing so many different weird, shitty versions of fitness. That it was almost like a reset button for the New York City fitness scene. So it was good, and a lot of people moved out. We got some new people coming in, so that's good. So it's a reboot in a way, which I appreciate. And then coming back, I think everybody's still struggling a little bit. New York's weird because we didn't get the okay to open up till like June.
Mm-hmm.
And most people in June, July, and August, and now people aren't coming back to the office till September. So we don't even know what the scene's gonna be like come September. But I was like, you know what? Just like I did with my apartment, I was like, I could either double down on myself and stay here in New York and continue to build, or I could leave. So I got an apartment, I stayed, and then now I got the gym and I'm staying. And hopefully it pays off in the end to kind of invest in yourself and do what you have to do and kind of stick it out. I know a ton of people who moved on and went to other places, and they're doing great because a lot of other places opened up. And it's not like New York. New York's very not transient in a way that like people are coming and going a lot, but people are here and they have a house in New York and they have a house somewhere else and they have a house somewhere else. So, they're always gone. I mean, the summers, most people are out east or at the Jersey Shore. So hopefully in September, we're going to get a huge influx, and that's right around when I'll be opening the gym. So I'll be excited about that.
Yeah, you got a nice fan saying, "We love you, Mr. Beautiful," on there, jumping on the YouTube there.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Andrea S. I don't know if that's someone you actually know or just a fan out there, but
No.
feel free to shoot in some questions in the comments there, guys. But yeah, man, back to that New York City scene, and that, yeah, anyone not familiar, totally, the summer is kind of a very quiet, slow time for the fitness scene in New York City. But yeah, as September wraps around and people get all their kids out to school, that's when you get that influx of folks. And I did want to touch back to one thing with the way you guys are putting a lot of the social media out there. I think normalizing strength is such an important thing, something I'm a huge fan of, and you guys seem to be doing that with a lot of these pretty girls on the social media. But yeah, showing that these girls can lift some weights and it's not scary and they're not going to get bulky, which is a big fear. And again, it's fighting against this Gwyneth Paltrow don't lift anything more than 3 pounds, these little pink dumbbells, like otherwise you're going to hurt yourself. Or I don't even know what the rationale of that they're throwing out there of, yeah, again, not getting too bulky. But yeah, like, we were talking a little bit before about some stuff you have going on with your back. And at the end of the day, again, for these mothers that Gwyneth Paltrow is kind of, and I'll keep picking on her because I don't really love what she's doing for the health care and fitness space. But yeah, when she's talking about don't lift more than 3 pounds, like, you're going to pick up your kid, and your kid probably weighs more than 3 pounds. So it might be beneficial to be able to deadlift. And almost every human I've ever interacted with, from, a 78-year-old grandmother to a 12-year-old kid, like, can lift a lot of weight if you just teach them how to do it properly. So it's criminal to me to not really, as a physical therapist, I've put in more than $500,000 in understanding the human body on my side of things, right? So one of the biggest takeaways I've had is, if you don't get strong, and this is where, again, I love Strong New York, and I love kind of what you guys are doing and pushing, and really want to emphasize the fact that, yeah, if you're not keeping your body strong, all you're doing is throwing money out the window.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and you're just going to keep devolving almost, and you're going to be putting yourself in position for chronic disease, for disability, for pain, and needing surgeries down the line. So yeah, it's a crazy thing. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out the fact that you guys are doing a great job of kind of highlighting and showing that there's this incredible side of strength that every single human being should be doing it, and there are safe, effective, fun ways to get strong, and
Exactly.
again, in that community aspect. So yeah, I don't know, do you guys plan to, and I know you've done some stuff with like Barbell Shrugged, and I've listened to you on a couple podcasts, the one with Get Raw with Rory. That was a fun one. I appreciate you being an old fashioned. I'll shout that out. That was, if he was a drink, what drink would he be? Or I think that was the question. And the old fashioned was a very smooth answer. I'll applaud that one. So, but coming back to it is, yeah, do you guys have, other than just promoting strength, and again, I like the in your face, like, let's do this, let's have fun. Are you guys tracking anything on like more, I'm going to nerd out and ask on the like the scientific side? Do you look at, because I'll ramble a little bit more here, is the science shows that you live longer and you have a better quality of life if you have more grip strength, if you have more leg strength. It just connects these dots, and muscle is the organ of longevity, is the saying we have here. So, and I don't know if you've probably seen Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She was on some of the Barbell Shrugged.
Yeah, she's great.
Yes. Yeah. So, and she's in New York City. So I just wanted to make sure you know her, but she's one of the biggest advocates of this whole big concept of again, just like build strength now so that you're putting that kind of money into your retirement, your physical retirement account. So coming back to it, I mean, are you guys creating content? Do you guys have a plan with, again, just like promoting the science of strength? I don't know if that's, and again, like, it's really cool. I like this dynamic here of, you're really good. You're probably the best looking guest I've had on here. No disrespect to anyone else. I've had his nickname, as somebody said in the comments, is Mr. Beautiful. But there's that kind of sexy, like, let's do this thing, versus, hey, like, let's have a real conversation. That's where I nerd out on this stuff. So yeah, I don't know what the exact question is, but do you have any kind of plans of balancing that, like the science versus let's just get strong?
Yeah. So my balance is like the day-to-day, right? Most people on a day-to-day basis have a job to worry about, a family to worry about. There are so many real life things that people have to deal with. So for me, I want to make it as seamless and simple and fun as possible on a daily basis. The event, however, is an opportunity for anyone who wants to take it beyond just a daily habit and really learn and understand what they should learn and understand. And that's where I bring in the experts, right? Every event that I've thrown were the people I learned from. Those are the people. So my events, I don't do anything there. I just put the event on, and I'm the nucleus of like all these people. So I've had everybody from Steffi Cohen, Jordan Shallows, Dr. Jordan Metzel, Gabrielle Lyons, Don Saladino, like the best people I know and I've gotten an opportunity to learn from. I put them on a stage, and let them teach everybody, like, hey, here's the science behind it. Here's the truth. Here's what we understand about the body. You know, your VO2 max is in direct relationship to how well you're going to live, you know, and muscle tissue. It's like you're rapidly losing it as you get older, and you need to hold on to it. So you're fighting, you know, your body degenerating. So it's like if you're not using it, you're losing it even faster. So, you know, I watched my grandmother pass away from Alzheimer's, and she had a osteoporosis, and then my dad had a stroke, and then um, all his shit with you know, getting older and stuff. And I watched multiple family members, but those two very close to me, just wither away and die. And had they have taken better care of themselves, like I sat in hospital rooms for hours and days and years with family members, people I care about a lot, and watch them wither away. And I'm like, all right, how do I prevent other people that I love, how do I prevent them from dealing with this? You know, and I want people, I want everybody to live more gracefully. You know, all these people running around fucking being like, oh, it's great to be fat. It's like, you could be okay with it, but if you're not progressively trying to get better, then you're wasting your life. You know, your heart is only so big, and it's got to pump blood to your entire body, and your lungs and your knees is going to only takes so much. So when you get wear and tear on your body, and you know, I just want to promote better habits. And I think people who could take care of themselves and are taking care of themselves tend to be more successful in life, in relationships, in business. It doesn't matter. Like, people are getting better when they're taking care of themselves.
Yeah, man, I'm 100% with you on that. And we were talking a little offline, and you said it was all right to talk about this. So that kind of is a nice segue to your issue you have going on with your back that you were sharing with me, and you said you don't mind sharing with the folks here. So I do want to use that as a springboard to talk about, again, you're somebody who does take care of himself, obviously, and then injuries do happen. So now the concept of, and you were asking a little bit of my advice and the current healthcare system. We were talking offline again, and bringing folks into the conversation here of, you went to see a doctor, basically they looked at your MRI and they said you should never lift anything off the ground, and anything. And again, I'll just share your response there was like, well, what if I have a kid, or what if I want to play with, you know, like you know, my nephew or niece or whatever, and I want to, you know, pick them up off the ground, a little baby, my friend's baby, whatever it is. Like, should I not do that? And the doctor's like, yeah, like, you can't be a human, you can't live life. And again, that's no disrespect to the doctor. Like, they have to tell you what's safe. They have to tell you what is probably the in their best interest and your best interest. But the reality of it is, and this is where we went down a path of conversation here of the only way to really fix the back when it is theoretically as damaged as, you know, your MRI might look, is to rebuild it and have to go through a proper process of rehabilitation and finding somebody like me who understands and says like, hey, we need to put you in a year-long like deadlift rebuilding motor control pattern, and look at your hips and look at your knee and look at your ankle range of motion and all of these things. And like, again, you said you have access to some of these top you know, clinicians in the field that you bring to your events, but working with them is always a little bit tricky. So I guess the question is, and I would love for you to share, like you said, that experience with the people out there of what you're thinking of doing with some of that, and where your head's at with having a bit of an injury that again is very common. Low back pain affects over 80% of folks at some point of their lives in our population. So yeah, bring us into the fold on where you're at with that, and I'd love to troubleshoot some of those aspects with you that we were doing a little bit before we went live here.
Yeah. So for me, you know, just to rewind it back a little bit, I was dropped on my head. I used to wrestle all high school and college. My junior year of high school, I got spiked on my head, you know, doing a move, and they told me to never lift again, never work out again, I'll never wrestle again. You know, I rehabbed and rehabbed and rehabbed, and you know, my senior year, I ended up winning a you know, a championship, and then district championship, and then in college, I went on wrestled all 4 years, And then after college, I did jujitsu and mixed martial arts and CrossFit and everything else. Had I listened to that first doctor, I would have probably blew my brains out by now because I would have been so unhappy with myself. So I go see this doctor just yesterday, and he's telling me this, and I go, well, listen, no disrespect, you've never even been to a gym before, and you don't know what you can do if you take care of yourself. This has happened, and he basically explained to me that this was degenerative. Like, this would have happened no matter what, if I lifted or not. All my other vertebrae are in great shape. I'm in great shape. My heart rate, everything else is perfect.
I'm gonna jump in for 1 second, Kenny, because I think this is an important point to this whole conversation of the healthcare system. Is a lot of organizations in the last year or two have actually come out and said the term degenerative disc disease, which is commonly used and was something you were told, is something that has been not prohibited, but encouraged to no longer be used, because it's like saying you have wrinkles, and nobody wants to say, hey, you have some wrinkles on your face. But yeah, it's a normal sign of aging, and again, has no correlation to actual disability or injury or pain. So I just wanted to throw that in there, but keep going, buddy.
Yeah, he had mentioned that too. He's like, listen, I hate saying it this way, but this is what it is. Anyway, he was telling me, he's like, don't do this, don't do that. And I go, in all due respect, I'm going to try to figure this out on my own. I'll go see a couple doctors. I got a couple good PTs that I want to go see, and I'm just going to take a little bit from everybody, you know. And people are like, well, you take care of yourself. Why'd this happen? I go, you know, everyone's going to get to a point in their life where there's pain or there's injury or something happens. It's like, but I'm strong enough mentally and physically. Like, I know we're in the thick of the shit because we live this. We're constantly learning about it. We're working with other people who have similar issues, so we know what's going on. But for most people, they're not as in the trenches as we are. So helping them understand that, like, hey, you could work through this. You could do something better. You don't need surgery. And that's the journey I want to start to share starting today, is, you know, helping people understand, like, listen, I'm in pain. I get up every morning in pain. But I'm not going to stop working out. I'm not going to stop taking care of myself just because, even if I, God forbid, lost my fucking legs, I still have my upper body, right? I could put a gun in my mouth and kill myself, or I could just continue to do what I'm doing just with what I have left, right? And I want to encourage everybody out there to do the same. It's like, if whatever you have, like, if my right shoulder's kill me one day, all right, then I'll do more legs that day, right? I'm still creating circulation through my body. I'm still, you know, kind of, you know, moving around. I'm taking care of myself still. Like, the things that we should be doing on a daily basis, circulation, creating more collagen, everything. I mean, one of the slogans for Strong is there's nothing wrong with being strong, right? There's no downside to it, right? The stronger you are, the better you are, the more appealing you become. Now people are, oh, well, what about a guy who's on steroids? I'm like, that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other thing. It's like, you know, girls and guys who get to a certain point, it's like most of them are lying to you, telling them they're not doing something. But for the most part, you know, people who constantly take care of themselves are in the best shape and they feel the best and they're successful. I mean, there's a direct correlation between people who are successful and taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the old when we were first out in CrossFit, and I forget what year you kind of jumped into the CrossFit fold, when I was out at Fifth Ave and all that, but back in the day, and I think they had to get rid of this, was one of the famous shirts out there was, if you can't fix it with fish oil and back squats, you're probably going to die. And you know, that was a little bit of the concept, and the addition I want to put on that, and the caveat is really good back squats, right? And back squats that are tailored to Kenny Santucci.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, again, finding a trainer or a therapist or whatever the clinician and you know, the field of choice. And I think that is one of the things that we need to do, is clarify, like, hey, these guys have the right programming that's tailored with, you know, you have a chiropractor, a physical therapist, an acupuncturist, whatever, like, you're working with this team that's making sure that you're moving better, that, you know, and we talked about it also, again, before we went live, was having that investment and putting in a few $100 or $1,000 if you have the resources to make sure you are doing and getting the best quality of movement that you can. So it's just like hiring a financial advisor when, you know, you built up your first $10,000 or whatever. You're like, what should I do with this money? I have an extra $10,000 lying around, and you hire a financial advisor and maybe even give them $1,000 out of that to make sure the other 9,000 is going to, last you for the next whatever 30, 40 years, right? So that's the kind of idea with the physical investment, right? And that's where, again, I'm really excited to see what you guys are doing with Strong New York. And like you said, the other saying kind of similar is you can't go wrong getting strong. So when it comes down to it, and again, I do want to shout out, I love all your shirts. If I didn't have like 5,000 shirts here in my closet, because again, in the CrossFit days, it used to be if you dropped into a box, you could either pay the drop-in fee of whatever, 20, 25 bucks, or you could buy the t-shirt. So unfortunately, I have like 300 CrossFit t-shirts. So otherwise, I'd be ordering every single one of the Strong New York shirts. But
don't worry, I'm going to send you some anyway. I got to jump onto another call and stuff, but
all right,
I want to send you some good stuff. But
awesome, brother.
Really appreciate the convo, and I definitely want to follow up and kind of get your perspective and your opinion on a lot of this stuff, because that's the next thing I'm going to start to share on social media is kind of my journey through this. What is it, what back pain is, how you can work through it, and how you could do other things, and show people I'm willing to take the risk with myself.
And I know you gotta jump off, and I want to be respectful of your time, but the one thing I'm going to do while we're on here is do me a favor, since you're on the video and anyone listening can check this out. Put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. And you might have done this at some point, but take a deep breath in. And so have you had this assessment done before?
No.
Breathing. So again, and you said you've seen a few clinicians between the physicians, the doctors, orthopedic surgeons. You said you've seen a few physical therapists. I think it's criminal, similar to the fact like of everyone should get strong. Everyone should be able to breathe better. So how you breathe right now, I would want to improve that. And I bet you if we start getting you to breathe more into your belly naturally, more frequently, that's going to take off 75%. I don't want to put a number on it, but I've had a lot of experiences with, if you start breathing into your belly, you're actually going to take a lot of the stress off the low back. The stomach is the front of the back. So I'm going to throw that out there. I definitely want to continue that conversation with you. I want to be respectful of your time. I do want to shout out again, if you have another second, you had another fan here, Chris D. Loved watching you on the challenge. You grew into such a beast, and I love how passionate you were and pushed everyone to be the best. So glad to see you doing well. And as you were preaching, he shouted you out there too. So I do want to be respectful of your time. Anywhere people can find you and Strong New York on the social medias, get it out there.
Yeah, just Instagram at Strong New York, at Kenny Santucci. Kind of follow the journey, and hopefully you guys want to jump on board, and I'm more than willing and happy to help anybody I can.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for your time. We're going to jump off and let you get to your next call. And anyone out there, again, if you enjoyed this stuff, hope you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a rating, review, and we'll talk to you next time.